right after 1, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to anybody that is already on here. We're going to just dive right in. So today's Wellness Wednesday is on surviving the holidays, which we all need tips and guidance on, I think. It's a crazy time of year. So today with us, we have Tiffany Atala. Tiffany's a licensed marriage and family therapist with almost 2 decades of professional experience. She's the founder of Best Solutions Therapy, a counseling program focused on the most effective tailored care for first responders, families, and individuals. Best Solutions Therapy Center offers equine assisted psychotherapy, trainings, workshops, trauma and couple healing intensives, as well as group sessions. She also supervises associates, creates education and training, is a keynote speaker, clinical consultant, and a wellness coach. She is a dedicated instructor and mental health and wellness professional with AAA, serving agencies throughout the state of Idaho. Her genuine understanding for first responder family life comes from her own life experience, as she is married to an Anaheim fire captain and they have 2 children together. So just a couple reminders. You can use the chat at any point to message the host, either of us, or the entire group. And if you want to do it more anonymously, you can do the Q&A and I will be watching it there as well. And if you want to text this link to your spouse, we encourage them to join. So remember that your household can join and take advantage of these webinars as well. The next Wellness Wednesday is December 18th, and that one is Reaching for Fitness. I'm excited about that because we're also kicking off our next wellness challenge, which is the 12 Days of Fitness, which kicks off December 1st. So they're going to go great together. And then as a reminder, our newest wellness series is Mindful Mondays, and that is going to be on Monday, December 2nd at 12 p.m. Pacific time and 1 p.m. Mountain time. And that one's on progressive muscle relaxation to improve mood. So I will share those links in the chat as well and in the post email I send out with this recording. So, all right, Tiffany, I will let you take it from here.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This is going to be a fun, hopefully informative power hour, where we're going to talk about some ways that we can thrive during holidays. And for holidays, a lot of things are brought up for people, whether it's anniversaries of people lost, or even just good rituals and celebrations that you get excited about sharing with those that you love. So kind of a mixed bag. My hope is that people will be watching this recording while they're multitasking through their holidays. You know, maybe you're just thinking this is my little bit of me time and you're watching this while you're folding laundry, or maybe you're even hanging up the mistletoe. It is what it is right now, but we want to make sure that you have some tips and some takeaways that are actually applicable to where you're at. And then we are aware that there's a time crunch for all of us over the holidays, so they're not huge asks. They're just things that you could implement to get through this and not end up so exhausted, and make sure you're having enough fun. So over this course right now, we're going to go over some things. Like I mentioned, we're going to be managing expectations, and that's not just for our own self, because we do have expectations of ourselves and what it looks like to put on a good holiday celebration or Christmas, but also expectations for a family, how we set that up for success with them understanding it. And then we are going to talk about struggles in the family. That is grief, and someone's not at the table this year. What if your marriage is going through a rough patch or a season of disconnection from other family members? And mental health issues, they tend to be worse this time of year. Seasonal affective disorder, also due to weather changes. As we've all noticed, it hasn't been as sunny the last few weeks. Snow's coming in, and so really helping yourself prepare to be well. And then finally, how do we set healthy boundaries for commitments? Because a lot of us like to say yes to things and we get very, very excited. And then we also get very, very overwhelmed. So as we start in section 1, oh, these cookies are making me want to make cookies. We're going to talk about 4 strategies to stay out of sticky situations with our family members. And the number 1 strategy we're going to kick off with is how to set your boundaries ahead of time. So If you're someone who's really working on setting boundaries and this is your goal or has been your goal from 2024, it doesn't mean that it's come easy. And one of the ways you can establish boundaries ahead of time is by sitting down and thinking about these questions we're asking right here. How much contact do you want to have with certain people? And that means you need to know the people that rub you wrong or are going to ask too personal questions or they drink too much at the party. Whatever it is that makes it uncomfortable, how much contact you want to have with those people. And then what about the people you don't see enough? And so you wait till the holidays to see your great aunt. We don't want to minimize that time. And we don't want it to be time where you're not able to be present because you're rushing from this person's holiday party to get there to open presents and so on and so forth. So map it out. I just practiced this with a couple clients today. We're doing some role playing, getting ready to be asked about some uncomfortable personal things. And it's always that one relative that wants to get into it in front of people. Practice your elevator speech. Know what subjects that you're going to shy away from and take the conversation elsewhere. And then also know what you're willing to share. So if you just broke up with your boyfriend, you have a teen that's acting out, there's just something that's going on with the family that you don't want to air your dirty laundry or expose everybody to. Come up with the way you share. Thank you so much for asking. Validate that they care. Focus more in on that. And we're in a good season of growth right now, handling some things. And always an easy way to divert is start asking them questions about themselves. So thinking that. Recharging batteries. As I get older, I find I need a little bit more time to recharge. Some of you are extroverts, more family commitments, the more excitement, you're pumped up. It's great. You go, 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 go till you crash out. And others, this is more extroverted time than you even like. That one more holiday party or that one more place you got to go to watch your kids sing in choir, whatever it is. So just make sure that you block in your schedule short amounts of time where you can recharge. And then if there's a crisis, what's your aversion plan? So let's say you don't get along with your in-laws, but you're going to your in-laws and you know that maybe your husband wants to stay longer than you do. Make sure that you guys take 2 cars or you have a cue word if you're at a place where you want to make sure you leave before you get upset. So it's totally okay to have those things. Make sure you guys talk about them and set them ahead of time. Second one, this is the time where we take a no change stance. Don't try to start changing yourself and other people right now. So you had almost 365 days through this year to make changes. And if you haven't made them so far, it's probably not the time to put yourself on that track and expect that you're going to have positive outcomes. So I was meeting with a client last week and nutrition is a big part of her goals and the behavior around eating. And she was going to go to a pretty extreme plan of cutting out sugar. And as we all know, this would be the most tempting time. And when we think about sugar and the holidays and treats, there's also the social aspect, the social cultural aspect of sharing and making desserts for other people. So we just talked a little bit more about maintaining a balance or 1 treat a day, but just those are some things to think about in terms of that. Remember, the family that you come from, your original family of origin where you grew up, they might not be the healthiest people. I swear there aren't many functional families these days, right? They're not going to change. So don't go into this expecting them to be different. Expect them to be exactly who they are. And the only thing you have locus of control of is how you respond to it. And you can have those the pre-planned responses ready to go. All right, acceptance phase is number 3 for right now. And when we think about family systems that have addiction or codependency, where one person plays a role in it, and they may be the enabler of the other person with addiction, always covering up and trying to hide it, it is often the case that we look at this advice. And this author who writes about codependency and addiction, she gives counterintuitive advice. It's the opposite of what we think. She says that unhook from family systems by just refusing to try to control them. If you've got the mom that gets in your kitchen and starts moving your spoons and wants to cook things her way, decide, are you okay with not controlling the situation and letting her do what she does? Wasting your energy trying to make other people respect you when you're in a season of stress is not positive. And if anything, it's going to make you exhausted. Okay? you know, and I know you guys can read these bullet points, but they're there for you to read and go through, but you know that there are things that aren't right for you and maybe aren't right for your family of origin system. So don't talk about that. That means avoid the new religion that someone has adopted. Avoid politics, especially if alcohol's on board and the dinner keeps going. Just make a rule at the end and have everybody agree to stay away from that stuff so you can share in the positivity and the gratitudes for the good stuff going on. Okay. And then if you have a family that's really wounded and they're trying to heal, I don't want you to think that it's your responsibility to make everybody happy or to make everything perfect. Oftentimes that comes up when there's someone that's not going to be sitting around the table this year. How can I make it right for my kids? How can I make everything perfect? That is not your responsibility. If anything, just being present, asking them questions, having a laugh, engaging them, especially kids, in the process of doing things like these kids decorating the tree, showing them that there's efficacy and that they matter can be way more important than perfection. Number 4, if you've got healthy habits or coping, which most of you do, please don't stop. Lately, I've noticed that my exercise rule is for myself. I like to do 30 minutes of movement at least 5 days a week at minimum. And it is the first thing to go when other things get inserted into your time schedule. So I really want you to plan some time ahead of time to do those things that help you balance. Friends, the ones that you want to see, the ones that are there to process stress with you, don't stop talking to them because you're so busy. Plan time for that phone call so you guys can do your check-in. Don't shift from all these healthy habits that are helping you throughout the rest of the year, okay? And then finally, just be realistic. So right now, I'd like the 5 days a week to be more structured, but it might be the case that I'm just going for a walk that's really quick with the dogs, and that's going to be it for today while I'm listening to a podcast or while I'm preparing to do something like this presentation. Be realistic for yourself. Other things to think about. I love to say premeditated resentments are really based on your expectations of others. So that's how we get there. And I learned this actually from Dr. Odom and another person that I very much admire, who I worked with for years, named Chris. And he would talk about this idea that all of us have expectations. Our expectation is that our kids are going to follow directions and be super polite in front of our in-laws or our parents or extended family, and then maybe they start arguing. Our expectations of ourselves is that the house is perfectly clean before they walk in and they come early. And then you're irritated that they're coming early and they're not respecting your time. And it's like already setting yourself up to have these resentments with people. So just keep in mind that having really high expectations doesn't always serve us. Moderate expectations, or I like to say even lower them and then be pleasantly surprised. Communicate needs though. All right, other things to look at. Oh, there is a little bit of a show that gets put on by most people with holidays. We want to present our best self, whether it's being your most attractive self for the Christmas party, or whether it's making everything look perfect for the Christmas card or the holiday card, whether it's setting up a Hanukkah celebration where you're going to meet with friends and family, whatever it is, there's a way we want to present. And I think the bottom line is all throughout the year, we all want to be working on when we're going to be good enough for ourselves. And one of the ways we can start doing that is when you hear that negative self-talk in your mind, like, I should have done that. I should have known that I needed to go pick up the honey baked ham first. And now we're going to be late. And you're starting in on beating yourself up. Come back at it with 5 things that you've done right. 1 to 5. But I did an amazing job getting an order in. I already prepped cookie dough so we can make it. It's amazing. I've already shopped and it's not even Thanksgiving. Have your comebacks to combat that negative self-talk. All right, we're moving on to section 2, which is really about dealing with struggles that families experience. Grief, loss, marital or relationship dysfunction or discord, and disconnection. I'm going to get this playing for you first before we talk.
Well, and I know this sounds silly, me, the Disney person, but it really reminds me of Inside Out. At the end of the movie, Joy learns that she needs sadness.
Yeah.
That it makes her better.
Yeah. Sadness has a place. I mean, you don't know what victory is like unless you've ever failed. You don't know beauty unless you've seen something pretty messy. And so grief teaches us something about joy, and joy teaches us something about grief. They both belong. So if you're here and you're like, man, what do I do with this joy and grief? Make space for both.
Yeah.
Honor your grief. Don't give up on joy. Include it. Invite them both to the party.
Yeah.
And sometimes grief is going to be a little louder than joy, but sometimes joy will be a little louder than grief, but they both belong.
So we want to honor where we're at with things. It is the case that we can be experiencing extreme feelings and swinging from one to the other. I know that this year
Well, and
my grandmother won't be at the table, and she's a very important person in my life. And so one of the things that we're going to do is make sure that we go around and share a story that highlights what joy she brought to us, or parts of her personality, or lessons that we've learned along the way. And I'm laughing or smiling even talking about it and thinking of the good and how much that person means to me. So I want to encourage all of you that are really starting to grieve and having those tears in the shower and feeling like it's heavy, to support yourself. Go ahead and listen to an Audible book. Here are some options right here you can look at. Get yourself ready in January, if not now, to join Grief Share, or join Sharewell has a free online grief group, if you Google that, to help yourself either get through the holidays or to make that part of your healing post holidays. So just some things to think about. Those of you that want to put together a book to celebrate someone, you can also have people write down a memory and go around the table and read that, or bring an old picture in. So there's so many ways to look at it and include that person at the table this year. How do we know that we're changing or growing? So if you've experienced a lot of stress historically over the holidays, like you need a big hug from this horse right here. And that's actually my horse. And I really did have a moment there. So I wanted you guys to see if you empathize with that too, like the dog that cuddles you, or where you really feel solid and calm, and the place we all need to be when we've gone through some trauma. I wanted you to see that embodied. But how do we know that we are going through a season of growth from the trauma? Well, of these 5 things, something starts to shift, or a couple things start to change. Or maybe right now you can say, wow, I went through a lot last year. 2024, this past 10 months has been an amazing point of change. But through this, I've learned so much more about my strength, about myself, about my skills, the things that make me tick. Maybe when you're sad, you play the guitar. Or maybe you've taken up a new hobby like running. You've learned about your personal strength. The second thing is you're trying new things. Because of what happened, there's new space. There's new space for possibilities. There's new space for hope. What are those things? What are those things that you might try or might be exciting? It's okay to get excited about possibilities. Third one, when you've gone through some real stuff, the facade escapes you. The mask comes down. Suddenly, you become a person who wants the real stuff. You don't want to chit chat about, the surface level things. You're now someone that really wants to relate and connect with people. And so you might find those relationships that feed you in that way have become way more important to you. Oh, gratitude and appreciation for life. When you've been through something so hard, especially a health scare, that's one that comes to mind. You look around you and you go, wow, that sunset was beautiful. You're so grateful to be alive, or you're so grateful to have yourself healing. So something to think about. And then spiritual change. A lot of times when we're going through hard things, we question if God is what you believe in. You question why God, or there's anger. And sometimes these things bring you a lot closer to faith when you've gone through something hard, because we don't reach for it when things are just great. So I want you to ask yourself about that. Where are you at with post-traumatic growth? Uncoupling. This is a time of year where, clinically speaking, a lot of people are in therapy saying, oh my goodness, I have to see my ex this year. It's the first time, and we're going to get through Christmas together, sharing the kids. Or I know I need a breakup. I know this is not my life partner. I know we need to make change, but I don't want to do it because it's Thanksgiving time. So I think knowing the season that you're in, no matter what's going to happen next with your relationship, just find some balance for yourself first. There is no rush to make big decisions. Make sure that there's enough time for you to recharge your batteries, and then not everything's social time, because you are also experiencing irrevocable change, grief about what was. If you're going to be heading to a family gathering and you don't want them to ask, hey, how's John, in front of everybody, it's okay to let people know ahead of time, hey, coping with a breakup, just want to let you know. Probably not going to want to talk about it when we get there, but just wanted to put it out there. It sounds so weird, but doing that means that you've kind of prepped it and made it less interesting for people to ask you about. If you're going to be breaking the news to people, like someone's not coming with you or you're doing it different, prepare ahead of time. Don't be shy of rehearsing these things with a friend that you trust, and or seeing a mental health professional. Use your AAA benefits to walk through this hand in hand and have plans. Music is so therapeutic, and so are books. Sometimes seeing romantic comedies, watching every single Hallmark movie where they're going to kiss at that one exact time at the end and it all seems perfect, can really, really hurt you, because it makes us look and compare to what we have going on in our life, what we're missing right now, instead of being joyful and happy when you're going through grief or breakups. So consider changing what you're investing your time in. Funnier movies, old classics. Let's get out some Charlie Brown. Anything that brings back that childlike state. Doesn't have to be a romantic movie at the holidays. Spend more time with that. If you are grieving, remember, the stages of grief are not in a set line. You're not on the path as if you're walking through these mountains where you're with me right here in the darkness, and then you're going to end up in the light feeling better. Because some days you're going to go up a peak and other days you're going to be in a valley. And what I mean by that is some days you're going to be in a moment of acceptance, maybe. And some days you're going to go, wow, like I said about my grandmother, she really had so much impact on my life. And when I think about strong women, I want to be like her. And I have joy thinking about that. And there's other times where I'm going to be depressed or sad or have some tears. And I want you to accept that and not beat yourself up like, oh man, I'm back to crying. I thought I got over that last year. These are natural ebbs and flows. And so going through anger and sadness, even a little bit of denial until you're actually at the family event, forgetting that they're gone, all of that is normal and it comes and goes, okay? So stages of things, knowing that they're brought back up around anniversary times of the loss, and then of course the holidays. How do we set boundaries? Boundary setting is not as easy as it sounds. Now, some of you are watching this going, I am amazing at setting boundaries. I just say no. This part might not be as much for you. Or I set boundaries with people just fine, but my eating is out of control. Or I just buy everything I wanted. Like, wow, this is the time of year. It's almost like I have permission to just shop away. That's what we can focus on. By saying no to certain things, you're available to say yes to what matters most to you. And I really picked this up from a book called The Best Yes. And so number one thing is what you say, you got to say no to any plans that are going to hurt you. Okay. Say no to things that you know are going to bring you so much stress that you just try to come up with every excuse that you don't want to go. It's okay to say no to things. Make sure that if you are saying yes, but I say yes, but, or yes, and, yes, I will go to this and I need to leave after 1 hour because we have somewhere else to be, that you have a place to go to and stay, and or you have transportation to get out of there, okay? And you're not stuck waiting for someone else to go with you who might be enjoying it and forgetting that you're setting that boundary to honor yourself. Prioritize, like I said, the people who are of most value to you need to be your priority. And oftentimes people feel so guilty that they don't feel as close with their actual family members as they feel with what I call friends by choice or family by choice. The people that have become so valuable in your life and that you're sharing experiences with more regularly. And it is totally okay if you're more excited about hosting Friendsgiving than you are going to great aunt's house for actual Thanksgiving. Eating success. So in my past history, I did a lot of nutritional planning and was a personal trainer. And I will say and say again, don't do what most people do. Most people say, okay, Thanksgiving, I'm not gonna eat all day. I might pick a little bit as I'm prepping stuff. I'm gonna be in the kitchen all day. I'm gonna be busy. I'm gonna try and keep myself busy. And I'm gonna wait for this meal because we're eating dinner early, which is totally different than everything I do. And then we get to that meal and we're grumpy and we're snappy and you way overindulge and you feel like you need your special stretchy pants, like that episode of Friends, and you don't feel good after. And then if you're really not having engaging these behaviors regularly, or you've been on a plan to reduce your weight, you start to feel really bad about yourself. So Thanksgiving is a special day, but I want you to treat it like other days of the year. You're having special food that you may not have all year round, but you can have more of it and leftovers. So I'm going to encourage you not to skip meals, keep your blood sugar high. You're less likely to have arguments with people. We don't want you dropping out with low blood sugar. So choose good proteins and healthy snacks throughout the day if you're not going to eat a full meal. Make sure before you get to the table that you've eaten a small meal. And this one, actually, number 2 applies more if you're going to a holiday party and you know there's going to be a lot of junk. Totally okay to eat a little meal ahead. And then when you get there, have another portion of a meal so we don't indulge too much. Look at your plate. Make sure that there are some sides made that you know are extra healthy. So it might sound weird, but I'm going to make a giant salad in addition to a regular Thanksgiving, just so I can fill a lot of that up on my plate. And I encourage you guys to do that too. Don't skip having something delicious that you love. If gingerbread cookies are your thing and you've been waiting and you're making them, please, please, please make sure that you enjoy a little bit of them and you're not giving it all away and wishing you had it, because that's setting yourself up for binge eating later. What you starve yourself from ends up being a partial sabotage or punishment. And because you felt like you missed out and you feel punished, a lot of times old bad habits and behaviors will show up, which could be binging on food in private and secrecy. So it's better to just have one of those little gingerbread cookies or save half of the dessert for tomorrow because you know you want that apple pie. It's totally okay, but let's just break it up and be aware. And then the next day, what are you doing to kick off? The next day, make sure you have a walk planned or you have exercise planned. You have ways that maybe you're going to have some turkey with the sandwich, but we're not bringing the whole feast back out. Be ready to hit the reset button the next day. Finances. Interesting. A lot of holiday stress comes from finances. It's almost 50% of the stress comes from having to spend money. And most people really struggle in general, especially with the economy and how expensive things have got, really struggle to have excess money. A lot of people spend the most at the holidays, more than they do at any other point during the year. So we're going to talk about ways we can do that differently and manage it so it doesn't spin out of control and cause you that level of stress. There's some articles by Healthline that you can check out and read if you want to dive deeper on this. The other thing is that healthy eating or exercise become an issue. So can you plan that you do a family walk after you eat? Or if it's going to be cold and too dark, maybe in the morning you do a turkey trot little race or run, or you make sure that you get in the gym for 1 hour. You'd be surprised. There's actually a lot of people in the gym on Thanksgiving. I used to teach fitness in the morning Thanksgiving Day, and it was full. So it's okay to do that stuff. You got to plan ahead so you have the time to do it. Other things, some people really, really are sentimental and they worry about getting the right gift. And that's almost like we took the positivity out of it, because actually people receiving the gift get something out of it, but they usually statistically get less out of it than the giver of the gift. So it's absolutely okay to do the best you can and not stress that this is the one and only best thing you're ever going to get them. And then finally, the schedule. We've talked a lot about saying no to things, saying yes to the appropriate things, and keeping your schedule manageable. So, alcohol in the holidays, it's another excuse to party. It also might be that you're really dreading some stuff, but you go, okay, as soon as I get there, I'm going to hit that eggnog and it's going to feel a lot better because my anxiety is going to go down and I'm going to get a head change. Just be careful. I mean, not only are we more worried about accidents with the people on the road, the weather changing, but sometimes the impulse control is decreased and you might just blurt out what you didn't mean to say, or you meant to say, but you promised yourself you wouldn't say it because now there's going to be an argument. So just be careful. It's interesting that your brain gets in this triggered mode because it remembers past arguments. So if you had a really rough Thanksgiving one year where there was a big to-do or big argument, as Thanksgiving comes up, it might even be the smells of prepping the food that brings up this level of anxiety and fight flight mode. Our body and brain are simultaneously memorizing past experiences. We call it painful past learning. So if you notice you're just a little bit more activated or anxious, let's do some things to calm that down. Even if it means you take a walk, you go to the bathroom with, or help one of the little guys go potty, and you recenter, put in those 5 positive thoughts we thought about, go back, know what your boundary is. Don't push yourself through it. Alcohol can increase depression. It's good in the moment, but it impacts your sleep. You're not going to get as good of REM sleep, and it can actually lead to you feeling more depressed later. Gifts are complicated. There's a big cultural piece about gift giving. So many different cultures value gifts and certain types of gifts in different ways. It's very much symbolism, and definitely in the United States, where the purchasing communities, like we go out and buy gifts more often than we make gifts. And so we may want to change that, but gifts usually represent meaning of love, of importance, of priority, so many different things. Connection. It brings a reason to get together and it deepens that connection, extending that I care about you, you matter, I put some of my finances towards it, or my time or my energy. And remember, we've made this so commercialized. It really isn't about the money. I want you to think of one of your favorite things that you have. One of my favorite things, one of my favorite gifts ever given is this beautiful pen, kind of a marbly looking pen that was made by a friend of mine's dad. And they made it together as a gift for me. And I love it. It's just so treasured and special. And there's not another one like it. So think about those treasurable gifts that you can make and get your kids on board making some of those with you. That's the fun of it. Oops, I want to go back and talk a little more about this. So lots of research on spending, lots of research on gifts. I already mentioned that giving the gift has actually shown to affect the mesolimbic system and make you feel better. Spending money on others, it actually can feel better. There's no guilt behind it unless you're really deep into the reserves and you know it's going to put you out. But usually spending money on others feels better than on yourself. This one's interesting. Making donations will actually light up the reward circuitry in your brain more than you getting a gift. Donations, having a cause. So maybe if there's something out there that you think is in need, a good cause. I loved watching on the news how they're making sure to provide jackets all over for people, that maybe there's another cause that's really important to you. Make sure that you get involved with that. And it could be a donation of money, but also could be a donation of time. And we used to do every Christmas when I worked with the program with Child Protective Services, we would do this really amazing event where all of us would get together. And a lot of you have done this before where you adopt a family, but we would adopt all of the families that we had and find people to adopt them. And then we would go be Santa and we'd find all the gifts, we'd wrap the gifts, and then we deliver them secretly to the parents so the parents could make sure that they were able to provide Santa for their littles. So I even think of that and get happy. Maybe there's some ways you can give back that would make you feel really good this year. Other things about spending, before you start the spending train, please look at your finances. Think about, how am I going to pay this back? How is this going to bind me if I go too deep? And really decide how much you can afford to spend, budget it out and stick to it, okay? Other things you can do, of course, making gifts is very special, but there's an app, Draw Names app, and we did that a couple of years where we have so many cousins in the family that we just swapped out this secret Santa, this person gets this person. The app does it all for you. Just put in the emails, and that was so much fun. Or sometimes you say, hey, no gifts at all unless it's a cookie swap. Come up with other ways to do it that are fun. I'm so impressed with how many places are offering beautiful free activities for the holidays. So get excited about going to see the lights, or making sure that you go to the little farm that's putting on something outside, or a nativity scene that kids are doing. Kind of look for those things in your community because those are ways to celebrate the season and they're exciting. If things have changed a lot, it's time to make some new rituals that are yours. I want to start a new ritual with my kids now that they're getting older. I have an almost 11-year-old and a 9-year-old, and I want to make a bunch of different kinds of cookies and make sure that we get them all together and we give them out to the neighbors. And maybe that's something that we do year after year. And I'm also going to ask them to participate and share some of their ideas. What we've done historically is make ornaments every year. And so I know they brought that up already to continue to do that. So I want to have them participate in it. And, biggest thing is, what is the theme of this Christmas or this holiday season going to be for you? And if it's a faith-based, and you're Christian, you know what the meaning is for you, but sometimes people also develop another meaning. Like, this is going to be the holiday of give back, or this is going to be the holiday of gratitude, and just recognizing that. Money's the big one, but time's another one. We talk about resources, time's the big one. These are the top stressors for most people. Okay. And sometimes I'm going to go to the bottom. Sometimes the issues like struggles with your teenagers, health issues, and realizing that you're not where you wanted to be this year in your health. Maybe you've been dealing with something chronic, really being challenged in your faith, feeling like, gosh, this is the last Christmas before my kids go to college, or life changes. And then, of course, dealing with loss, specifically suicide. This can be really, really tough, extra tough this time of year, because we spend time thinking of it. We spend time in gratitudes, and we spend time noticing what isn't here too. I put this in here because I want to make sure that everyone has access to this. My biggest fear is that people get quiet, and people who are struggling are kind of hiding in the darkness. It's colder outside, we have less social interaction, and people are so busy that we are more apt to miss things in our family, or our friends, or coworkers. So if you see any significant changes in someone's personality, please ask them about it. Show compassion, and not a closed-ended question, are you okay? But more, hey, notice a change. You seem a little down. What's been going on for you? Make sure you have the time and the private space to do it. And that goes for personality, behaviors, talking about eating habits. That would be if you're supporting someone and you care about them and you notice that they're not eating, or they seem very stressed and overeating. Maybe you're talking to your family about that, saying, well, hey, I get like this too. What's behind it? Fear of losing control, that's a big one. So if you notice that somebody is having erratic behavior, like riding their motorcycle in the ice, or really, really agitated, look at those things and take them serious. Sleep's the big one. So if you are talking to someone who says they've had any feelings of suicide, ask them about their eating, their sleeping, depression, how much these things are impacting. And then, of course, if you hear any statements about hopelessness, about feeling helpless or worthless, we call that the cognitive triad, or anything similar to that, I just can't see it getting better next year. Make sure to ask them, have you been feeling suicidal, or have you been feeling like it'd be better off for you, everyone would be better off for you not to be here anymore? Make sure you ask the question. That's the number one thing. Now, if you get that hair in the back of your neck going up because things seem very off, terminal behavior, all of a sudden they're giving away something really important to them. One year we had a gal who was calling to make sure that we would take care of her horse, and it just seemed so off. And we ended up finding out that she was having suicidal ideation and she was having thoughts of suicide. It was a very hard time of year. And so I'm really glad we didn't just brush that over and say, of course we would, as if it was no thing. So recognize these signs, and please make sure you ask the question. Okay, less serious note here. Whew. Stress management in general, we say there's 4 A's. Hey, look, I'm telling you to avoid things. Realize that you only have so much capacity to deal with stress. And maybe this is the time of year where you might have to avoid some things just for a little bit. It might be the case that you say, okay, I cannot have this parent-teacher conference follow-up until January. It's just my level is here already and I can't handle one more thing. It's totally okay to accept that and to put roadblocks in. Alter, change stressful situations. Sometimes we change them by changing our attitude. Other times we change them by changing what we do or who's there. Maybe even bringing a friend with you to an event would change a situation. Adapting, that's a lot more about perspectives. I say try on a lot of hats. is the way you're looking at something limited? Is there an alternative way to look at it or hypothesis? Like for instance, if you think that your uncle thinks you're a loser because you're changing jobs again, or you haven't gotten that promotion, is that always true? So what would be another way of looking at it? And try that on. Maybe the other way of looking at it is your uncle loves you so much and feels pressure to support you in changes or wishes better for you. So just even dancing with those different shifts can help us feel better. And acceptance, always working towards acceptance. There's stuff that's just out of our control. And the only thing we have control of is how we respond to it, right? So sometimes we get to that point and go, okay, all I can do is mitigate my response. That's all I got right now. In general, read through these. There's some ideas of stress management techniques. What do you like to do to de-stress? I have a really neat diffuser that I haven't used lately, but I love holiday smells. So even reading this, I'm thinking, oh, there's something I could do different. I want you to pick 2 things on here that you could look at or consider doing through this holiday season. Joy is this thing that tends to be very hard to find when you're feeling depressed. And there's so much pressure to find joy, find joy. And then it's almost more upsetting because what if you can't find joy? And rooted in joy is when you can be yourself. And rooted in joy is the feeling of being present in a moment, and everything sensory about that moment pleases you or makes you internally feel calm. So look for time where you feel like you're completely engaged and you're really showing up as the real you, or little moments where you feel at peace instead of always hunting for absolute joy. Happiness is fleeting and shifting, so presence and peace is really important. How about exercise? This works for a lot of us. If nothing else, it changes our brain chemistry, get a little bit of endorphins, makes tasks that feel overwhelming feel easier to manage. Exercise that stress away. If it's the case that you notice that every time you're getting frustrated or you just feel like you want to say bad words more often, which bad words sounds like a little kid, but sometimes our language is so negative, it could even be that I'm talking about, then find a way that you motivate yourself. So every time I get into negative speak, I've got to do 5 sit-ups tonight. Even that type of stuff will help keep you motivated and will also help decrease your stress. Breath. Taking a deep breath. Slowing down. I just started playing with my Apple Watch and the breath, and I know it's always been here, but I also noticed that it will ask you about mood, and you can track that. So if you're someone that has an Apple Watch, or you have another app on your phone, or something readily available on your computer, you can use that to learn a little bit more about it. If you've never tested your breath capacity, there are actually a few apps where it'll ask you to breathe in and see how long you can breathe in, hold, and even longer exhalation. So you can set them to zoom in and zoom out to coach your breathing. That's pretty neat too. 1 minute every time you feel yourself bump up into stress, that's all you need to just come slightly back down. And then of course, if you have more time, you can invest in learning different breathing techniques. I will mention that we have a Mindful Monday that's going to be coming up in the new year that's all about breathing techniques. So if you're interested in learning more and what they can impact, definitely sign up for that. So at least you get the video explaining it. Overall, we know that being mindful, recentering, I call it, or resetting, does all this good stuff for our immune system. Actually helps us not ride high and end up getting sick as easily. Self-care. What's the de-stressor that works for you? Doesn't need to make everything practically perfect, but what works for you? Mine really is the run. I need to go for a run, or I need to go out in the barn and put music on. Whatever that is, make that self-care a priority. Infuse it into your plan for these next couple months. Water. I have a water bottle right here. Are you drinking enough water? Sometimes that's an easy change. Go get your thermoflask or whatever it is, Hydro Flask, or what's the popular one everybody has right now. Go get that, fill it up, and make sure that you're drinking more water. It'll help flush some toxins that are being released from your body too. I've talked about the diet, and then sleep when you can. cutting back on the sleep because you need more time to wrap presents, cutting back on the sleep because you have things due before the end of the year and you want to be ready to celebrate holidays. This is not a good thing overall. It's going to make it harder for you to handle conflict. It's going to affect your mood and your health. And with that said, everything does go better when someone's well rested. Notice how much more easily you can handle all of the tasks of the daily, all of the things that you encounter that are frustrating or difficult when you've rested. Ideally, as an adult, we need 7 to 9 hours. Now, my first responders listening, you have very stifled sleep because of shift work. So please protect the sleep you can get on your days off. Try not to stay up super late watching one more episode on Netflix. I know it's fun and we can get wrapped into that, but your sleep is imperative right now. So this is the time of year that you actually can take in that beautiful white snow. Make sure to breathe in and breathe out. Take in what is right. Take in what is good. The other night we had a beautiful sunset, and just watching it, taking pictures of it was so much for recentering. I want you to find ways that help you recenter. And for me, that was visual, sensory visual. What other sensory things help you feel grateful or present? Sometimes it's go put that apple cider on, smell that, change your mood shift, practice gratitudes. Positives, I said you're going to have 5 positive for every negative self-talk. You're doing a combat mode, but also watch out for what you're thinking inside your head, what you're sharing with other people. If you're getting together with people and you're speaking negativity, it just broods within yourself and it can be toxic for you too and for everybody else. Active, we talked about this. Mindfulness isn't always about doing meditation. It's about shutting off all the distractions and playing Monopoly with your kids. Be present. And we talked about lots of rituals we could try. You only have so much energy. So as you're reading this, who are the people that are energy vampires? They come to you with a lot of problems. What are the things that suck energy out of you? Okay. Your list might look different than this, but be aware of what it is. And if you're actively working on these things when you listen to our Wellness Wednesdays, make your own list. What brings energy to you and motivates and makes you feel better, and what takes it away. So many of these things that we can practice in our own self-help will help us grow and become routine, and they'll become the interventions you use to just cope better. So we want you to be well-equipped for life, well-equipped for handling the holiday stress and thriving. Think about each of these boxes right here. What am I going to do with my physical health that's reasonable? How am I going to take care of this brain health? That might be the positive self-talk. That might be making an appointment to start in January or now to see a therapist with EAP. That might be reading a self-help book. Social, we talked all about picking the people and prioritizing your time. Lifestyle, those are some changes that you might be making. Maybe there's events that you're going to say no to. Maybe you're going to drink less. Where are you going to find relaxation time and how do you relax? Fill in that blank. Creative. Creativity is so good for our brain. Playing is so good for our brain. So when we're scrapbooking or we're making a gift over the holidays, it takes us somewhere else. And it's really, really good for making new healthy neural connections, and it's good for developing more gray matter and healthy in the brain. So lots of good stuff. How are you stimulating yourself cognitively? Just because you have a lot going on doesn't mean you can't listen to interesting podcasts or read little articles, just little points of stimulation. And then environmental. How do you make that environment healthy and pleasing? Seek support of good people. Seek support using your resources to manage stress, because we don't want you white knuckling it. You have the opportunity to see a therapist right now. You have these EAP counselors like myself, and you get 10 sessions per issue per year per person. So it be couples therapy, you go for that. Kids get their own, you get your own. So use that. If nothing else, it just helps you vent out what's going on so you don't bring the energy home. If you're struggling and you're a first responder, we have a first responder helpline, which is great. And that number, you just dial it directly any time of day. And with AAA, you're going to get support right away and resources. For anyone 988 is a national hotline. So if you have people that you know that aren't in the AAA network and you're helping them out, 988 is their number one goal is to prevent suicides and help people get resources. And I've even been sneaky and called 988 to see what happens when you call and ask a bunch of questions. And it's pretty amazing. So we have that easy dial. There are a lot of therapies that work for past traumas. And as a trauma therapist, this is a time of year where if people do still have the energy in November, or they know they need to work something through so that they aren't bumped up against a lot of triggers or activators, then we can do this pretty fast and effectively. Accelerated resolution therapy, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, brain spotting. Those are a few techniques that therapists have that in just a couple sessions can help give you great relief. Support groups. AA, Al-Anon, you could never have been to one of those and you decide, you know what? I'm going to listen in. You can go online and you can, anywhere in the nation, you can be on a call. So if you don't feel comfortable being on an AA group in Idaho, you can be on an AA group in Nebraska and you don't have to show your face even. So these things can be super helpful. The church offers regen. A lot of churches do. Celebrate Recovery. So if you're feeling lonely, this is a good time to jump in. If you're really struggling, there's some great treatment programs out there. Don't wait till the new year. Don't wait till you hit absolute rock bottom. I used to be the clinical director at First Responder Wellness, and this is actually a busy time of year for people to admit into treatment, even though they'd rather be with family because they want to get well and enjoy their life. And what better time to do it than when everybody's busy and distracted? So do what you need to do. I gave you an area to fill out for your well-equipped plan. So make sure that you have an accountability partner or you're accountable for yourself, taking care of things that you've planned to do. Check back on it, cross them off, praise yourself. So in review, please don't throw your budget out the window. You can pay later. Rehearse your elevator speech for those tricky people that are going to ask really embarrassing or uncomfortable topics of you in front of people. Notice when you're present or you just feel like the real you is showing up and just go, huh, that felt good today because I had a deep conversation or I was able to show compassion and care. No is a complete sentence. You don't have to always explain things away. You don't have to make up white lies or have a reason. Sometimes the answer is no. It's just not the time for you. Don't go trying to change or make huge changes this time of year. So not the time to do drastic measures. It's okay to maintain the status quo and plan and pre-plan through contemplation before action. And then self-care, even if you have to change it a little, tweak it, shift it, you've got to implement some self-care. Just because it's holiday season, it's 2 or 3 months of holiday season. It's not the time to take this quarter of the year and throw it out the window. All right, that is everything for this presentation today. I hope you got some good ideas of things that you could implement to make this holiday season one that you thrive and not just survive. And I really appreciate everyone being here.